Good evening, beautiful people, or good morning, depending on when you're watching or listening to this pod, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify. I don't care. I'm just glad you're here. We don't have Dion Parker here today, though, so it's just your boy running everything. And man, what a week, huh? Let's get right into it. Of course, Texas is coming off of a win over, San Jose State. We talked about them last week. We got to see a little bit of what could be with this offense. Arch Manning, 5 touchdowns, but we also got to see the same type of deficiencies, I should say, when it comes to penalties. 12 penalties for the Longhorns against San Jose last weekend, and that's something that has been a big point of emphasis when it comes to Coach Sarkisian and this staff, trying to press down on fixing those problems when it comes to not just the offensive line, false starts, holdings, but it's all around. Coach Sark talked about that this week during the press conferences. These penalties are happening at every single level, whether it's defense, offense, special teams, old guys, young guys, everyone's committing penalties, and that's something they want to fix. And so I'm interested to see when it comes to this Saturday against UTL Paso, does that remain the same theme, or will they fix those problems? Something that came out of the Ohio State game was the defense needed to force more turnovers. That was a big topic of conversation after the Buckeyes trip. And guess what happened the next game? 4 turnovers in the first half. So they are coachable. You can tell that, but we'll see if they're able to pinpoint those penalty issues and utilize that to their advantage come Saturday. But speaking about Saturday, of course, UTEP is coming into town. They're coming off of a win over UT Martin, I believe, over 40 points for the UTEP Miners on last Saturday, 42-17 over UT Martin. They do have a loss this year playing Utah State in week 1, losing 28-16. But the big topic of conversation, of course, between both teams is the quarterback position. Texas and Arch Manning, will he continue to wince? Will he not continue to wince? I don't think he has a problem. I don't think there's an issue. I think people are just overblowing this thing. If he was really injured like that, he wouldn't be playing, or he wouldn't have thrown that ball over 60 yards to Ryan Wingo last week in that first quarter. So, I don't think there's a problem there. But I do think that'll be interesting to monitor as this year goes on, because let's not forget, someone made a comment on my TikTok when I talked about what I learned from the press conference on Monday. And, I kind of teased that soundbite from Sarkisian about, actually, if you haven't heard the soundbite, let's just play it. We'll play the soundbite right now. This is someone asking, one of the student reporters, asking Coach Sarkisian about the wincing that Arch Manning shows whenever he throws the football, and is he hurt or not?
Arch Manning seemed to be having some throwing pains by the
According to
quarter.
who?
Arch
said that to you?
No.
Oh, according to who?
It just looked like he was.
He doesn't have any.
Is there an explanation to why it looked like that?
I don't know. I've never filmed any of you guys when you're using the bathroom, so I don't know what faces you make when you're doing that.
In the middle, Roger. Sark, you talked about going home and watching.
Do you guys like that? I'm going to ask you. You get another question coming up. I'll come back to you.
Okay, so of course that soundbite's going viral right now. I don't get the analogy, by the way. Like the whole throwing the football compared to using the bathroom type thing. I don't really get it. Some people chuckle and some people are just like, that was weird. I was one of those people that was like, that was weird. But anyways, I just don't like the way Sark kind of answered that question, even though he's probably tired of asking or being asked about it. Now, to be fair, Sarkisian was asked after the game against San Jose State about the wincing in Arch's face, and he answered it then. And so I see why he kind of showed that type of energy, because he's like, I already answered this on Saturday. And for the student journalist, he was a little bit nice, saying like, hey, I'll come back to you. Mind you, he did get another question at the end of the press conference. So he was nice about that, coming back around, not just, imploding on the kid, but then giving him another shot to ask a question. But I understand where Sark's coming from. It's the talk right now. His quarterback, is he or is he not hurt? And he keeps saying he's not, and people keep asking about it. So I understand why he's getting kind of frustrated. But, as you heard, though, he's not injured, according to Sark. But I do feel a little cautious, because let's think about last year, right, with Quinn. We didn't know about the ribs or the oblique. That didn't really come out until we really had to get answers about it. And then Arch misses a couple games. Arch starts a couple games because Quinn is hurt with that oblique. And that was just something that wasn't really announced when the injury occurred. But as time went on, they finally had to announce it. And then let's backtrack, let's say 2 years ago with Xavier Worthy and the broken hand situation, or was that 3 years ago? Either way, broken hand situation with Xavier Worthy. We didn't find out about that until after the season. And mind you, Xavier's dropping passes. The whole fan base is turning on Worthy because he's not catching deep balls, because he's missing pretty easy catches. But if we would have known that X had a broken hand, maybe that would have helped out. But start keeping that information to the belt didn't help out X at all when it comes to his perception to the fan base. And so I just hope that they may have learned from that situation with X and they're not doing the same thing, because you're only hurting the player's reputation when you're withholding information from the fan base and from the national media. But heck, man, Texas runs their way. They want to run things, and that's on them. But they're also going to see how the way UTEP runs their things over there in El Paso as they come into town. Here's Coach Sarkisian as he talked about what can Texas fans and what can the team expect from the Miners as they come to DKR.
As far as this week goes, Scotty Walden and UTEP coming to town. Sky's had a nice career. He's done a nice job, and his team is drastically improved. A lot of transfers on both sides of the ball. Obviously, Malachi Nelson at quarterback was a very high-level recruit. Guy we recruited here is throwing it all over the field. And I think defensively, very attacking style defense. Through 2 games, I think they have 10 sacks. Through 2 games, they have 23 TFLs. Their third down conversion rate, I think, is like 20% on defense. So they're attacking defense, that very active, very similar to what we played last week. I think we need to handle the movement much better than we did last week at the line of scrimmage. But all in all, to me, this week is about us and what we need to do to improve as a football team, individually and collectively.
Okay, so the week is about them, and I totally understand that because, look, Miners aren't coming in with a lot of expectations to win this game. They just want to look better. And just like Malachi Nelson, he wants to prove that, hey, I can play at this level because I was once recruited for these type of games. And so, yes, I'm excited to see UTEP coming in town. I'm kind of excited to see this Malachi Nelson kid. A lot of hype out of high school for this QB1. But I'm also just trying to see if these penalties are fixed. And I think that's what Sark was alluding to when he says it's about us this week. And when it is about y'all got to make sure that y'all fix the problems y'all had the week before. Sark also mentioned he wants to see growth each and every week. I think growth this week will be, let's limit the penalties. But to talk about El Paso a little bit more, I'm bringing in Adrian Broaddus from ESPN El Paso. Coach, you know the segment, going over enemy lines. Adrian was in the press conferences this week as the players and coach talked about facing UT. I can't wait for y'all to hear this conversation because he had a lot of insight and some cool stories when it comes to the Miners. All right, beautiful people, we're about to go over enemy lines with ESPN El Paso's Adrian Broaddus. Adrian, first off, thank you for taking the time. I know you got a busy week and you got a lot of things going on in your life. So hopping on Mose Knows, really appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you, Cory. I'm so excited because we're going to Austin. I love Austin. I would say that's like my second home out of El Paso. I know so many people out there, and we got a lot of UTEP fans out there too. So I know UTEP's going to probably get waxed this weekend against the Longhorns, but man, it doesn't excuse me for making a trip out there to the 512 and getting a chance to experience Austin.
Yeah, bro. So you have been out here before? Is that what you just said?
Oh yeah, I've got family out there, great friends out there. Family on both sides. My wife's family's out there. My sister-in-law's out there. I've got my aunt and uncle are out there too. I've got cousins out there. I've got friends out there. I mean, I'm telling you, I love that place. I love Austin. I feel like when I'm there, I don't even need Google Maps. I don't even need like Apple Maps. I kind of know how to get around.
It's a whole family reunion, it feels like, or sounds like, I should say. You have a favorite spot in Austin?
Oh, Pluckers, man. We don't have any wing place here in El Paso like Pluckers. We will kill you guys in Mexican food here in El Paso, but nothing like wings out there. And there's some great spots out in the Domain. I love going out to by the campus itself. Everybody, when you're growing up, everybody's talking about 6th Street and stuff like that. But I just went to downtown Austin, and there's so much to do, man. I love Austin.
Yeah, bro. You definitely got some Hispanic food. I mean, Velvet Taco. You're saying we don't compare?
Not even compare, man. When you come to El Paso, Cory, we'll treat you to some real Mexican food.
Oh, I'm ready for that. We have a mutual friend in Colin Deaver, so he tells me all the time about the Mexican food up there in El Paso is on another level. So I can't wait to definitely visit him and then honestly get some little Mexican food spot recommendations. That'd be awesome.
Oh
But yeah,
yeah,
bro.
man.
Of course, we got you on because not the Mexican food talk, but we got you on because of UTEP talk. The Miners are going up against Texas this weekend. You talked about maybe getting waxed. I don't know, man. You got a quarterback leading the way in Malachi Nelson that was on the same wavelength when it comes to recruiting meters when it compared to Arch Manning. And so, can you just talk to us about what Malachi Nelson has brought to this offense? And I know with him being such a highly touted recruit coming out of high school, I'm sure getting him to El Paso was a huge deal.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing. The first thing that Malachi Nelson brings immediately to UTEP is star power. I mean, UTEP's never had a 5-star like this, never had a guy who is rated as high of a prospect like this. You're going to have to go back to the early Mike Price days in the 2000s to try to find some prospects who were highly as touted, highly as recruited as somebody like Malachi Nelson, but no one was as decorated as him. I mean, coming out of high school, he could have gone anywhere he wanted. Goes to USC, doesn't work out there, goes to Boise State, doesn't work out there last year. Then he hits the portal this time around and wasn't the same kind of recruiting as he had coming out of high school. Like there were a couple of teams who were throwing money his way and who gave him some guaranteed options, guaranteed spots. But at UTEP, he was, his path was forward to move forward with a coach in Scotty Walden. And I think that really appealed to him. He wanted to be a part of an offense like this. And it took a long time to get to where we're at right here, Cory. I mean, it was a really tough spring and it was a fall period where Malachi Nelson had to learn and develop that chemistry with a lot of players. He actually spent a lot of his summer with a quarterback guru in Jordan Palmer, who coaches a lot of guys like Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and the who's who in the NFL. But a guy who played at UTEP once ago, his older brother Carson is obviously the Palmer that you think about when you're talking about the Palmer brothers. But Jordan is the quarterback expert when it comes to like refining these quarterbacks and helping them get better. So all of that put together led to the fall camp, and then Malachi Nelson taking over that starting role. So it all has led up to this point. I think the upside is there. I think you see a ton of potential with his arm strength. I think the vision of the field is there. I think the one thing that you want him to grow on is just decision making here moving forward.
Okay, so I'm curious about that, right? You always hear about people's stories are always different. You got a different journey for every player. Heck, starting safety for Texas, Michael Taft, he's a walk-on, and now he's an All-American. And so, have you been able to learn about the why behind Malachi Nelson's story, like why it didn't work out at these different spots? Have you got any intel on that?
Yeah, I would say that the other spots, he maybe wasn't the time, like the right time. You looked over at USC, there was Caleb Williams who was, 2 spots ahead of him. You looked last year on a Boise State team that wanted to win now, and I think Malachi Nelson needed that early development. Even this year, Malachi Nelson still needs development. He's going to be a better quarterback by the final game of the season than he is right here in early September. He needs that time to grow. He needs that time to develop. If you think about it, man, he hasn't played college football at all in his whole life. He hasn't even been a starting quarterback since his high school football days. So it's been a while since he's had this opportunity to go out there and do what he can. And that's why in the first game, there were some shaky points. He had 2 delay game penalties. He had some struggle points in that first game against Utah State. Then last week, he has a fumble on his side. He fumbles the ball, which leads to a UT Martin touchdown, and it's a tie game, 7-7 early in that ball game. It takes him kind of getting hit in the mouth in order to rally back and kind of push through adversity. But after that tie score this past weekend against an FCS team, he reeled off 3 straight unanswered touchdowns, and the Miners went up with a commanding 28-7 lead and never really looked back. So the why, the how, and all of that, I think you're seeing it even, kind of trickle onto the field. Like his why and how is being shown and put on display every week when he goes out there in college football. And the bottom line, we don't develop quarterbacks very well in football. Like you look over with the Texas Longhorns and with Arch Manning and some of the vitriol he received after the first week. It's like, man, he's made his first star. Like this guy's a highly touted prospect. He has a ton of skill. Can we give him a little bit of a break?
Yeah, you make a great point right there because all the fans, they hear about the hype. They hear about the stars. They hear about, oh, he's going to be the next great one. Well, sometimes it takes time. And I feel like a lot of people don't want to wait for that time. to develop. Like you said, Malachi is going to be a different quarterback by the end of the season. Arch is going to be a completely different quarterback by the end of the season as well. But let's remember, these guys are still young. These guys are still making kind of their first real starts. Heck, Arch just made his first true road start. His passes had only been in Austin, Texas until 2 weeks ago. And so I just think that fans need to give a little bit more time. And also it depends on the offense as well. And like you mentioned earlier with Malachi Nelson, maybe the offenses that he was in earlier wasn't the greatest fit. So what about this offense made him so attractive to come into UTEP?
The fact that they were willing to work around him, the fact that they were going to be willing to put pieces around him as well. You look at guys like Cam Thomas, Kenny Odom. You look at those two guys who are all conference caliber returning players. And then not to mention, they're bringing in a running back tandem of Hashawn Wilson and Ashton Emery into the mix. I think with all of that mixed with a coach in Scotty Walden who loves to call his own plays, fast kind of type of offense, up-tempo offense, I think all of that was really something that was attractive to Malachi Nelson, not to mention communication and trust. He chose UTEP over an unnamed school that was offering him six figures. I don't know, if you know too much about UTEP NIL. There's not that much NIL. They're trying to grow it. This is still a G5 and Conference USA that's making a jump next year to the Mountain West. They're trying to grow that NIL, and maybe he is getting some good money that's comparable to other players at UTEP, or maybe the highest at UTEP or something like that, close to the highest, but he's still not making what he could have at a different school. So that speaks to Scotty Walden. It speaks to the coaching staff of developing that relationship over the recruiting process and landing a high caliber recruit like Malachi Nelson.
Yeah, let's talk about Walden, huh? You was in the press conference yesterday. I love bringing people on the show that are in the actual press conference rooms and not like national media who really not feet on the ground. This is why I like you, Adrian, because you feet on the ground, you boots on the ground, you know what I'm saying? So when it comes to coach's press conference yesterday, what is something that may have stood out when he talked about UT?
Yeah, the fact that he grew up a Fort Worth guy. He's a D3 coach who was at one point at East Texas Baptist, and they were going through Austin for a road trip. And they just asked to stop by. I think it was Charlie Strong, the coach at the time. They asked to just stop by and practice at DKR, and he was just kind of taking it all in back in like 2014 and was thinking, wow, I would love to coach here someday. This is like my goal. And he's young. He's a young guy. He's in his late 30s, but he's a very young coach for being a head coach of an FBS program like UTEP. When he got hired at UTEP, he was 35 years old. So this is a younger coach in the game. And for him to have that opportunity to be out there, I think he's still kind of taking it all in. Another thing is he is friends off the field with somebody like Steve Sarkisian. Like he looks up to a play caller like that. And I know it's not like a big brother, little brother type of thing. He tries to, Sark has been so appreciative and really, respectful towards Scotty Walden during this time. But these guys are the type of guys who are friendly even at like Texas coaches meetings and stuff like that. And, no foul play as far as like recruiting aspects or anything like that. I think this is a great relationship that UTEP can have in the non-conference atmosphere. UTEP is set to play Texas, 4 times in the course of between now and 2031. So that's a big deal. I mean, I think that UTEP fans love it because there's a lot of, obviously excitement between UTEP and having an opportunity to play the Longhorns in the SEC. There's a lot of excitement with that. And, you grow up in Texas. You're a Texas high school football player. This team is 70, 80% made of Texas high school football players. You grow up and you watch the team in the state of Texas. That's what he was saying yesterday in his press conference. That is the Longhorns. It's not the Aggies, not the Red Raiders, not any of these other schools out there. It's the Longhorns. They're the cream of the crop. And at the end of the day, if they don't have success, it's like the Dallas Cowboys. You're going to hear about it from everybody. And it's like that with Texas because it's truly Austin's pro team.
Oh, a lot of Texas fans gonna love hearing you say that, Adrian. I'm not gonna lie to you. Not the Aggies, not the Red Raiders. They're like, hell yeah, we're not. I know they're gonna be listening to this excited as hell. But yeah, Adrian. So you just spoke about something, right? Going to DKR back in 2014 was a big thing for Coach. He's able to practice on the field. I'm sure he looked around, thought about, man, I can't imagine what this stadium's going to be like when it's filled with people. I'm sure that went on through his head. But now he's going to experience that on Saturday. And so is there anything that they're doing to take precautions of understanding the environment and maybe being more prepared to come into 100,000 plus environment on Saturday?
Last year they were at Tennessee, and I think that gave this new coaching staff. I keep saying new because it's a younger coaching staff. This last year was kind of like year zero, and this is really year one. But it gave them a good introduction of what it means to play in a hostile environment in the SEC, going out to Knoxville and taking on the Volunteers like that. Now, this is a different animal. I mean, going to DKR is a completely different beast. It's not just SEC football, it's Texas football. It's its own brand, and to have the crowd that will be out there, 100,000 plus, and to have the band out there, to have the cheerleaders, to have everything, the game day atmosphere. It's something that you can take in maybe on Friday, but you got to put, in your back pocket on Saturday and just kind of focus on the game and the task at hand if you're UTEP. So I think this time around they're a little bit more better. They're better prepared. They've been pumping in crowd noise all throughout practice all week long. I think you hear that from a lot of G5s who end up playing UT. And for UTEP, they're still going to be, David in this matchup right here going up against a Goliath like Texas.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, right? What are the expectations for UTEP? Did they discuss what they're looking at? Are they saying, we got a shot? I went to Texas State's press conference yesterday, and they're about to play Arizona State. And they straight up said, yeah, we got a shot for sure. We believe in ourselves. We think we can beat Arizona State, which, again, G5 playing Big 12. And so I don't know if UTEP has that same type of confidence, or what was the discussion yesterday at press conference?
They do have a confidence to them, but I think at the same time, this is still a squad that is trying to learn what it takes to win, right? Texas State's a school that has won, has been to bowl games and stuff like that. This is a school in UTEP that has not won a bowl game since 1967. So let's temper expectations, understand that UTEP wants to go into this one, maybe keep it close, maybe try to surprise some things, maybe, have some big moments, but we'll be real and we'll be honest with ourselves and say that between you and me, this is a squad right here in Texas that could be the best, if not the best team in all the country still, even with that loss under their belt against the Buckeyes, obviously, but for UTEP, they struggled in week one with certain things that kind of reminded you of year one, like just basic mistakes, fundamental mistakes. So can you shake off those things? Obviously, Texas is going to throw a lot at UTEP. Can you limit those big plays? Can you limit turnovers on your side and just try to play some clean football? Stay in the game as close as you can, and then once it breaks away, just try not to get back to El Paso with a ton of injuries and stuff like that. That's at least my expectations. UTEP is, I think, all time, they've only won 4 games against ranked opponents and only 1 against a team that was in the quote unquote powers that be, like the Power 4 or the Power 5 at the time, whatever. So it just doesn't happen at UTEP enough or as often. Go out there, collect the check, come back healthy. That's my mentality.
Love that. Guys, we're talking to Adrian Broaddus from El Paso, ESPN. Adrian, one last thing for you before you go. You spoke about it a little bit. You kind of hinted about it. I was like, okay, let me ask him about this as we close up this conversation. But you talked about how big this is for El Paso, like experiencing going against the SEC team, and not just any team, but the team in Texas. What is it about the atmosphere out there right now, and what is the energy like out there out west in El Paso for this matchup?
Well, this is the last dance of UTEP and Conference USA. So UTEP fans feel energized. They feel hyped about this year for whatever reason. It's a 5-star prospect in Malachi Nelson. It's, having the opportunity to engage with fans at big games like this against Texas. 6 home games, which that sounds fundamental to most schools. But for UTEP last year, they had 5 home games. And by the way, October games are weeknight games, so it's hard to get fans out there on a Tuesday. It's hard to get fans out there on a Wednesday. I can't stand this. That's why I'm saying it's the last dance in Conference USA. You're out of this conference after this year. You're trying to go into the Mountain West with more momentum than they had in Conference USA. It's been 2 decades plus of pretty bad football with UTEP football going into this conference. They've never hung a banner. They've never, they've had 5 bowl appearances during that time, but never won a single one of them in this while they've been in this conference. So trying to leave this conference with a bit of momentum going into next year, going into the Mountain West, and then a team like Austin or a team like Texas and playing the Longhorns like this, it just gives you some excitement. You're not going out there and taking on Tennessee. You're not going out to Chicago to play Northwestern. You're going against a team in Austin where there's a lot of familiarity and there's a lot of El Pasoans who live in the state of Texas who are going to make the trip to Austin to go watch this game, or a lot of people with El Paso ties who currently live in Austin who find the familiarity and excitement to go root for the Miners. So that's the fun part about all of this right here. I've been to the game. I was at the game in 2016, got a chance to dab up Kevin Durant before, he made his trip over to Golden State. He was still, obviously he had just left Oklahoma City at the time and was going over to Golden State, but made the appearance at Texas. That's the kind of game day feel. That's the excitement. Like, you get to see all these fun celebrities on the sidelines and stuff like that. But I enjoyed that from a media perspective, to go out there and cover that game. And now, Minnesota Vikings running back Aaron Jones, at the time, he rushed for over 100 yards against Texas in that game in 2016. So what could happen this time around here in 2025? Maybe we see some more guys emerge against a team like Texas, who plays in the SEC. And this is a perfect way for some of these guys to get recognized, to be on the national spotlight, to be on the scene. That's what they're looking for in this matchup right here.
Yeah, you make a couple good points there. First off, yes, a lot of ties to both programs. Malachi Nelson was recruited by Steve Sarkisian, and I'm sure it's going to be very exciting to see how much he's developed since that time out of high school. But then also, yes, bro, all the celebrities on the sidelines is cool, but if you haven't been to El Paso and been to the Sun Bowl, that scenery is beautiful. So if you're ever out there to watch a UTEP game, one of the most beautiful sights of any stadium in the nation, I will attest to that, is the Sun Bowl. And so, yeah, we got celebrities on the sideline, but y'all got the backdrop. I mean, with the mountains, bro, it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. But Adrian, thank you so much for your time. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I would just say check us out, 600ESPNElPaso.com. Check out our app, listen to our shows, or you can also follow me at Adrian Broaddus. Twitter next is probably the best way to do it.
Okay, Adrian, thank you so much for your time, bro. And I can't wait to see you on Saturday. It's going to be lit.
We're going to see you out there, Cory. Looking forward to it, man.
Great conversation with Adrian right there. It's kind of funny. I asked him, what spot does he like in Austin? He said Pluckers. Of all the things, that's hilarious to me. I got some 5 free week coupons I need to give to him. If that's the case, I'm going to see him on Saturday, so I need to toss those his way. But, yeah, it's a really cool conversation with Adrian. I hope you all enjoyed that. I thought it was interesting how he talked about Coach Walden coming to DKR back in the day when Charlie Strong was head coach just to practice, and just thinking about, wow, this is a huge stadium. Now Coach is able to coach in a game at that stadium. I'm sure it's a full circle moment for him and the UTEP Miners for Saturday. But, yeah, I can't wait for that matchup. Can UT's defense get their first shutout of the year? I know that was something they really wanted last Saturday against San Jose State. Of course, giving up those 7 points wasn't anything they wanted to accomplish. But Ethan Burke talked about that. He just wants to be perfect. He keeps saying, I want this defense to be perfect. And to be perfect, you got to give up 0 points. So we'll see if they can shut down Malachi and that Miner offense on Saturday. I can't wait to see what happens there. I can't wait to see all the other games around the country, though. Like, I don't think you understand. First off, the first week of NFL, spectacular. A complete cinema. Every single window had a tight game. You talk about Cleveland Browns and the Steelers. Oh, not Cleveland Browns, my apologies. Justin Fields versus the Steelers. Jets going down to the wire. The Browns had a close game too, though, against the Bengals. I think that first slate of games, a lot of good things happened. The only thing that was really cool was Colts and Dolphins. That was disgusting. But then you go to the Seahawks and the 49ers. That came down to the wire. My Texans, not going to talk about it, but yeah, they got slapped around. But then you go to the night game slate. And, the Bills and Ravens, that was complete cinema. And then you follow that up with Vikings and the freaking Bears. Like, the first week of football, NFL football, was great. And also the second week of college football was awesome as well. So if you're a football fan, we are living in a time where this is just amazing. Great football all around, close matchups, and this is why we love the sport, because you never know what's going to happen. You had no idea the coach was going to obliterate the Dolphins like that. Had no idea Josh Allen was going to come back from 2 scores down with less than 4 minutes left in the game. Had no idea J.J. McCarthy was just going to flip a switch in the fourth quarter, and now he's going to come back and beat Ben Johnson's debut as a Chicago Bears head coach. And Caleb still looks like Caleb. I will say that. But hopefully he can get better. But let's stick to college, though. A lot of matchups I'm looking forward to this week as I wrap up this episode of Mose Knows. Of course, Georgia versus Tennessee. Everyone's going to be looking at that matchup, number 6 versus, I believe, number 15 there. And then you scroll down, and I'm looking at the Battle of Miami. And no, it's not Miami versus Florida. It's Miami versus South Florida. Mind you, the Bulls are coming off an upset against Florida University, or University of Florida, my apologies. And so now that's kind of like the game for this state. Number 5 Miami versus number 18 South Florida. Can't wait to watch that game, especially after the AP voter situation that's happening right now on social media. If you haven't seen that, that's kind of low-key. I need a vote. You know what? I want an AP vote. I stay plugged into the college football sphere. I'm not going to be just blindly voting. I would love a vote. I'm putting my name in the hat. You know what I'm saying? Why can't Mose Knows get a vote for the AP poll? Let's hashtag Mose Knows deserves a vote. Put it in the comment section, bro, because I do want to be an AP voter. That seems dope. Not gonna lie to you. But other matchups around the country, Texas A&M and Notre Dame. That's a rematch from last year. Remember, Notre Dame got the best of the Aggies, and let's see if they can win this one. Notre Dame, I believe, has their backup quarterback playing against the Aggies, so if they don't come out with the dub, that's an issue for College Station. Another matchup, though, is Florida LSU. You never know with these bounce-back games, right? And that's what scares me with Texas State and Arizona State. Because Arizona State, you're just losing the game to Mississippi State that you shouldn't have lost. They're now going to be dialed in. They're going to be locked back in when Texas State comes to town. Unlike last year, they may have kind of, I'm not going to say overlooked Texas State, but, I mean, it was a close game, and it took a Cam Scatterboo performance to push them over the hump in San Marcos last year. Now Texas State goes into Tempe to play Arizona State late, too, at 9 o'clock. So I can't wait for that matchup. But I kind of hate that they lost against Mississippi State, because now they're going to be dialed in for the Bobcats. But same type of situation for Florida, though, right? Playing LSU, number 3 in the country. You just lost to South Florida, embarrassed, spit on somebody. That's not okay. How do you bounce back? And it seems like every year with Billy Napier, when his back is against the wall, his team shows up for their coach. And I think that says a lot about Billy Napier as a leader. When guys want to keep your job and they're playing so that you don't get fired, I think that says a lot about somebody that is a leader of men. And I think that's what Billy Napier is. If you haven't watched that SEC documentary on Netflix, I think you should. You'll get a little bit more perspective of who Billy Napier is. And I like him as a coach. And I think that's why the players do too, because he's just a down-to-earth guy. And so we'll see how they bounce back after that big-time loss. Will they upset LSU? And heck, if they do that, Billy Napier is safe. I mean, that's simple as that. If you beat LSU, Billy Napier is safe for another week. So can't wait to watch that matchup. But I also, of course, can't wait to cover the game on Saturday, Texas versus UTEP. I think Texas does cover. I think that defense, they finally get a shutout. I think they're ready for this shutout, and I think they get it on Saturday. And a 3:30 kickoff. It's going to be hot out there, folks, so stay hydrated. And I just can't wait to see what all goes down at DKR. But that's what's going down today for Mose Knows. Thank you for listening in. Remember, if you love this pod, if you like this pod, or if you just think it's cool, that's cool too. If you just think it's cool, that's cool too. Like, retweet, share, subscribe, please. We love all the support. We really do. And so if you can just keep spreading the content, keep showing people that Mose knows people around the country to talk about these matchups. I think that's really cool that we go over enemy lines and discuss what they're thinking over there as they face Texas each and every week. And so hope this helped you prepare for the game. And I hope y'all enjoy Saturday's game as much as I will. So y'all stay easy and y'all stay blessed. Thank you for listening to another episode of Mose Knows.